Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Melissa and I'm always here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday, and every other Sunday I talk about true crime, I talk about different topics, and on Friday I dedicate my channel to talk about missing kids, and on Sundays I talk about important topics, but I do download those on a different every other Sunday. I don't do it every Sunday. So if you like any of that, go ahead and subscribe and also hit that bell so you can be notified every time I upload. So with my new videos, I always like to start with the new poem of the day. So let's go ahead and start, and then we'll get to the case. You remind me of a penny, two-faced and not worth much. And that is the poem of today. It's a little bit short. So today I'm going to be talking about one of my most favorite topics to talk about. Don't know why, guys. Okay, do not come at me. I don't know. I just like talking about these topics. I don't know what it is about. I guess because I want to know. I want to know, and hopefully one day we get answers of why these people are born the way they're born, or if they just are like that. I don't. We're gonna be talking about a serial killer, which I have not done in a while since starting my whole new channel. So we're going to be talking about Gien. I do want to put a warning, which I need to start doing it on some of my videos. But yeah, I'm going to do a warning. If you're a kid, get out of this video. If you don't like hearing certain things, I will suggest you just look away, and I will be here with a new video on Wednesday. But this is a warning that I'm giving you right now. So let's go ahead and let's see who's Gien and what he did, because when I was searching him, okay, so Gien was born in La Casa Cruz County, Wisconsin on August 27th of 1906, the second of two boys of George Philly Gien and Augustine Wilmer Gien. Gien had an older brother, Henry George Gien. August hated her husband and an alcoholic who was unable to keep a job. He had worked at various times as a carpenter, tanner, and insurance salesman. George owned a local grocery shop for a few years, but sold the business, and the family left city to live in isolation on a 155-acre farm in the two of Plainfield, Wisconsin, which became the Gien family permanent residence. Augusta took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who can have influence on her son. Gien left the farm only to attend school. Outside of school, Gien spent most of his time doing chores in the farm. Augusta was fairly religious and normally Lutheran, and she preached to her boys about the immortality of the world, the evil of drinking, and her belief that all women, apart from herself, were naturally pernicious and instruments of the devil. She reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verse from the Old Testament, Book of Revelation, considering death under a divine interpretation. Gien was shy, and classmates and teachers remember him as having a strange memorization, such as a seemingly random laughter, as if he were laughing at his own personal jokes. To make matters worse, Augusta punished him whenever he tried to make friends. Despite his poor social development, Gien did fairly well in school, and particularly reading. On April 1st of 1940, Gien's father George died of a heart failure caused by his alcoholism at age 66. Henry began doing odd jobs around town to help cover living expenses. The brothers were generally considered readable and honest by residents of the community. While both worked as a handyman, Ed also frequently babysat for neighbors. Yeah, I wouldn't let him babysit my child, especially after I hear what he did. I wouldn't do it. Would not do it. He enjoyed babysitting, seemed to relate more easily to children than adults. Harry began dating a divorced mother of two and planned to move with her. He worried about his brother's attachment to their mother and often spoke ill of her around Ed, who responded with shock and hurt. On May 16th Oh wait, oh yeah. On May 16, 1944, Henry and Ed were burning away Marshall's vegetation on the property. The fire got out of control, drawing the attention of a local fire department. By the end of the day, the fire having been exonerated and the firefighters gone, Ed reported his brother missing. With lanterns and flashlights, a search party searched for Henry, whose dead body was found lying face down. Apparently, he had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of death was heart failure, saying he had not been burned or injuries otherwise. It was later reported by biographer Harold Scratcher that Henry had bruises on his head. The police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. The authorities accepted the accident theory, but not officially investigation was conducted and an autopsy was not performed. Questioned again about the death of Bernie's warden in 1957, state investigator Joe Wisconsin brought up questions about Henry's death. George W. Arnn, who studied the case, wrote that in respect it was possibility and likely that Henry's death with Cain and Abel except of this case. Gien and his mother were now alone. Augusta had a paralyzed stroke shortly after Henry's death, and Ed devoted himself to taking care of her. Sometime in 1945, Gien later recounted he and his mother visiting a man named Smith who lived nearly to purchase a straw. According to Gien, Augusta witnessed Smith beating a dog. A woman inside the Smith home came outside and yelled for him to stop, but Smith beat the dog to death. Augusta was extremely upset by the scene. However, what bothered her did not appear to be in the brutal toward the dog, but rather the presence of the woman. Augusta told Ed that the woman was not married to Smith, so she had no business being there. Smith hollered. Augusta angrily called her. She had a second stroke soon after, and her health deteriorated rapidly. She died on December 29th of 1945 at the age of 67. Ed was devastated by her death. In the woods of Arthur Hole Shore, he had lost his only friend and one true love, and he was obviously alone in the world. Gien helped on the farm and earned money from odd jobs. He boarded up rooms used by his mother, including the upstairs, downstairs, parlor, and living room, leaving them untouched. While the rest of the house became increasingly queerly, these rooms remained pristine. Gien lived there before in a small room next to the kitchen. Around this time, he became interested in reading plot magazine, adventure stories, particularly those involving cannibalism or Nazi autocracies. Gien was a handyman and received the farm subsidy from the federal government starting in 1951. He occasionally worked for a local multiple road crew and crop threshing crews in the area. Sometime between 1946 and 1956, he also sold an 80-acre parcel of land that his brother Henry had owned. So now let's get to the crime. On the morning of November 16, 1957, Plainfield hardware store owner Bernie would disappear at a Plainfield resident reported that the hardware store truck had been driven out from rear of the building around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store saw few customers in the entire day. Some areas residents believe that this was because of deer hunting season. Bernie's Wooden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Wooden, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the store's cash register open, blood stained in the floor. Frank Wooden told investigators that on the evening before his mother disappeared, Gien had been in the store, and that he was to have returned the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze. A sales slip for a gallon of antifreeze was the last receipt written by Wooden in the morning she disappeared. On the evening of the same day, Gien was arrested at West Plainfield grocery store, and the Worcester County Sheriff Department searched in the Gien farm. A Worcester County Sheriff deputy discovered Wooden's decapitated body and on a shed, Gien properly hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes at her wrists. The torso was dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a 22 caliber rifle, and mutilations were made after her death. Searching the house, authorities found whole human bones fragments, a waste basket made of human skin covering several chair seats, scalps on his bedposts, female skull and some with the tops sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from the female torso, skin from shoulder to waist, legging made from human leg skin, mask made from the skin of a female head, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skulls in a box, Bernie Wooden's entire head in a pearl sack, Bernie's wooden heart in a plastic bag, and from the Gien's pot-belly stove, 9 value in shoes boxes, a young girl's dress, and the value of 2 female judged to have been about 15 years old, a belt made from female human nipples. Y'all heard that right. He made a belt from a female nipple. How did he do that? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. A young girl dressed in the role of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old. A belt made from female 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, fingernails from females' fingers. These artifacts were photography at the State Crime Laboratory and then dancing disposed of. When questioned, Gien told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 naturally visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies while he was in dazed-like state. On about 30 of those visits, he said he came out of the deaths while in the cemetery, left the grave in good order, and returned home empty-handed. On the other occasion, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother, and took the bodies home where he tanned their skin to make his paraphernalia. Gien admitted to stealing from 9 graves from local cemetery and led investigators to their location. Alan Wilkinson of the State Crime Laboratory participated in the opening treat test graves and defining by Gien. The caskets were inside wooden box. The top boards came acrossways, not lengthwise. The top of the box were about 2 feet 61 centimeters below the surface in a sand soil. Gien had robbed the graves soon after the funerals while the graves were not complete. The test grave were exhumed because authorities were certain it has to whatever this light Gien was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening. They were found as Gien described. 2 of the exhumed graves were found empty. One had a crowbar in place of the body. One casket was empty. One casket Gien had failed to open when he lost his prayer bar, and most of the body was gone from the 3rd grave, yet Gien had returned rings and some body parts. Those Gien's confession was largely corroborated. Soon after his mother's death, Gien began to create a woman's suit so he could become his mother, to literally crawl into her skin. Gien denied having sex with the bodies and that he assumed explaining they smelled too bad. During State Crime Laboratory interrogation, Gien also admitted to the shooting death of Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since 1954, whose head was found in his house, but he later denied memory of the details of her death. A 16-year-old youth whose parents were friends of Gien and who attended ball games and movies with him reported that Gien kept skunk heads in his house, which Gien had described as a relic from the Philippines, sent by cousins who had served on the island during World War II. Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human facial skin carefully peeled from the corpse and used by Gien as a mask. Gien was also considered a suspect in several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin, including the 1953 disappearance of Evelyn Healy, a lacrosse babysitter. During question, Washoe County Sheriff Art Shaley reported assault Gien by banging his head and face into a brick wall. As a result, Gien intentionally confession was ruled indivisible. Shirley died of heart failure at age 53, ends in 1968, before Gien's trial. Many who knew Shirley said he was traumatized by the horror of Gien's crimes and his long way with the fear of having to testify, especially about assaulting Gien. Cause of his death, one of his friends said he was a victim of Ed Gein as seriously as if he had butchered him. On November 21st, 1957, Gien was arraigned on one count of first-degree murder in Waukon County Court, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Gien was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. He was sentenced to the Central State Hospital for the criminal insane, now the Dutch Correctional Institution, a minimum security faculty in Waupun, Wisconsin, and later transferred to the Modest State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. In 1968, doctors determined Gien was mentally able to confer with the counsel and participate in his defense. The trial began on November 7th of 1968 and lasted 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Gien had told him that he did not know whether the killing of Bernice Wood was intentional or accidental. Gien had told him that while he examined a gun in Wooden's store, the gun went off, killing Wooden. Gien testified that after trying to load a bullet into the rifle, it discharged. He said he had not admitted to the rifle at Wooden and did not remember anything else that happened that morning. At the request of the defense, Gien's trial was held without a jury, with Judge Robert J. Gomer persisting Gien was found guilty by coroner on November 14th. A second trial dealt with Gien's sanity after testimony by doctors for prosecution and defense. Gomer ruled Gien not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him committed to Central State Hospital for the criminal insanes. Gien spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital. Judge Comer ruled due to the prohibited cause of Gien was tried for only one murder, that of Mrs. Wooden. He also admitted to killing Mary Hogan. Gien's house in 1955 property were obtained. His possessions were scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th of 1958. Amidst rumors that the house and the land it stood on one may become a tourist attraction. Early in the morning of March 20, the house was destroyed by fire. Deputy fire marshals report that the garbage fire had been set in 75 feet from the house by cleaning crew who were given the task of disposing or refuse that hot coals were recovered from the spot of the born fire. But the fire did not spread along the ground from the location to the house. Arson was suspected, but the cause of the fire never officially determined. It's possible that the fire was not considered a matter of urgency by Fire Chief Frank Wooden, son of Bernice Wooden, Gien's last victim. When Gien learned of the accident while in detention, he shrugged and said, "Just as well." Gien, 1949 Ford Saturn, which he used to all the bodies of his victims, was sold to the public auction for $166, equaling to and Carnival sideshow operator Bunny Gibbons charged Carnival Gore 25 cents admission to see it. Gien died at the Modern Mental Health Institution due to respiratory failure secondary to lung cancer on July 26 of 1984 at the age of 77. Over the years, surveying secret sheep piece from his gravestone at the Plainfield Cemetery until the stone itself was stolen in 2000. It was recovered in June 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and was placed in storage at the Washington County Sheriff Department. The gravesite itself is not unmarked, but not known. Gien is intentionally between his parents and brother in the cemetery. So that is the story of this crazy asshole who should have been just never born, because I mean, I don't know who the fuck does that shit. Like what is wrong with people, y'all? Can somebody explain that to me? Like, what is wrong with people? Like, what possessed you to just? And I'm still in that whole how do you make a bell out of nipples? How do you do that? I want to know. I'm not saying I want to do it. I just want to know. But here in his story, actually, I'm gonna put the y'all go follow my girl Bailey Sarian. She did this story on Monday. She does makeup Monday makeup tutorials. Like she does her makeup while she talks about crime. I forget to call it. And she also uploads on Thursdays. But on Thursdays she talks about history, which is really like stuff that we never learned in school. But I will put her name on the description below. Y'all go follow her. Y'all go subscribe to her channel. She is the best. She's just so amazing. But yeah, when I heard this story, I was like, I need to talk about this person. I need to talk about him because let me tell y'all, he should never have been born. But yeah, he is. If y'all live in that area, I mean, I don't know who's gonna want to visit a serial killer. I mean, I've seen people do crazy, but his stone was getting. And why would somebody still? Why? What are you gonna do with his stone? Like, what are y'all planning on doing with it? Put it in in your house? Why would you want a stone of a serial killer? Like, that don't make no sense. But he don't have a stone, guys, because people keep trying to steal it. So they decided, you know what, you ain't getting one. But yeah, guys, that is the story, and I will be back on Wednesday with a new story. Peace.